And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that. It's free, and you can watch and listen to our program daily between 12 and 2 o'clock. Go back and check us out if you happen to miss something. Always download the app, JB and Goldwater app, and head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. as well. You can follow us individually across social media at Sports Media JB, at Darren Goldwater, at JB and Goldwater collectively. 843-321-8893 is our phone number, and it's also our text line. Coming up at 12:30, Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network. He'll join us. We'll talk about this crazy Carolina quarterback situation with him. Also want to talk about maybe the Kentucky Wildcats. There are some expectations on UK this year. Let's see what his are. Carolina's got them in week 4, and that could be one of those barometer-type games if South Carolina is looking to make a bowl game here in 2021. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on this strange alliance-type situation. There's an announcement coming up on that at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We got Cory McCartney at 1:30 today. Cory's going to talk about the Braves. They finally lost last night, which isn't good. They're still 4.5 games up in the East. They've got the Yankees again tonight. We'll talk to him about Miguel Cabrera, where his place is in the history of baseball. 28 players all time have hit 500 or more home runs. He is now, of course, the 28th, and we'll kind of take a quick stroll around the big leagues with Cory as well. What group of 5 team has the best shot to make the college football playoff, or is there one that has a shot to make the college football playoff? We'll talk about that. We got some more college football to get into. Shane Beamer has a press conference at 1:15 today. This will be the norm throughout the season, 1:15 on Tuesdays, and we will update you with his comments from there. And we got plenty more around here as well. So hope you'll stick with us throughout the afternoon. But first and foremost, good afternoon to you, Darren Goldwater.
No, it's not a good afternoon. I couldn't watch the finale of the Northern Trust yesterday because Live 5 News failed to put it on TV. They relegated part of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the finale, which also went into extra holes, to Bounce TV. What the hell is Bounce TV? And who knows where to find Bounce TV? I happen to like Tony Finau. He's one of the guys I've been following ever since he almost broke his ankle at the Masters. Then I saw him at the Genesis when I was out in LA, and he was an awesome dude. And I couldn't watch because Live 5 News didn't let me. They're the only way you could possibly have watched in this area, and they put it on Bounce TV, which is one of those like dot something channels that you need an antenna to go get.
So you're the TV guy, so you'll have to fill me in here. So that's not something that is required by the network to carry all the way through?
It should be. There's probably some contractual loophole that said we actually did air it on one of our stations and they bumped it over there. But typically that would absolutely never happen. Even on the bar in the TV guide section, it said the Northern Trust is on. But no. Once the leaders got to like the back nine, this wasn't even the 6 o'clock news. The 6 o'clock news was like the playoff time and down the stretch. This was like the 4 and 5 o'clock news. Who cares? You're taking off one of the 3 tournaments for $15 million to air the 4 o'clock news and then tell me, you can go to Bounce TV. Not cool at all.
That's a strange, obviously, that's a, I would think, tied to revenue type decision, obviously, with the amount of money they have in their news broadcast, but that's kind of a stupid decision as well. So, it's a fail on our local.
If you didn't know, there are a lot of golf fans in this general viewing area of that particular station. Like a lot of golf fans in this area. None of them could watch the Northern Trust Final. Couldn't watch it.
Are all of the playoff events on CBS?
I think so, but okay. I'm not certain. But that's why you couldn't go watch it on the Golf Channel at that point, because the Golf Channel is NBC. So it's not like the Golf Channel was going to preempt. They were re-airing the Women's British Open, but they didn't even know the local CBS was doing this.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So obviously that wouldn't have happened if it was on Sunday, but it was a weekday. It got moved, obviously, because of
the news
or whatever.
Yeah, the news. So they're no longer #1 rated news. I may as well point out while I'm doing this. Used to be. You couldn't get them off that #1 slot, but they've been bumped down now for a little while, and now they do this.
Yeah, that's a pretty poor decision there, Channel 5. Y'all got to get it figured out. If somebody over there is paying attention, feel free to respond. That's you
had opportunities last night too. I wasn't exactly quiet about this.
Yeah, that's that's brutal. And of course, Finau won it at 20 under in a 1-hole playoff over Cameron Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So you missed a hell of a finish to the first round of the playoff.
Yeah, and a comeback. I mean, he was like 4 under in his last 5 holes or something like that just to get into the playoff. Couldn't see it. Didn't see a shot. Not one.
That's that's pretty sad. I missed that. It was our nephew's been in town, so it was our final day with him. We had gone to dinner, but I was kind of keeping up with it on my phone, obviously, but I wasn't watching it, so I didn't even know that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we'll get a response from them. Maybe somebody else is complaining about it out there. I'm sure there are.
They probably. I see. At least I didn't blow up their phones last night. I blew them up on Twitter a couple of times, but I didn't blow up.
Did you ever get a response?
No. What are they going to do? Sorry, you can go find Bounce TV if you want to run to Staples and get an antenna first,
or just give you some type of statement as to why.
No, didn't do that either.
If it's
they apologized a couple different times on the news. They double boxed it. They put the golf behind the head of the anchor, so you couldn't even see all the golf, and it was on for a couple of seconds. Oh, if you're looking for this, it's on Bounce TV.
What channel is Bounce TV?
You can't get it.
Oh.
I promise you can't get it. It's one of those something else. You can't get it. Mm-hmm.
Adam says he didn't think it was on in Atlanta either. So I wonder if that is, that maybe that's some type of policy with CBS, like you said, a loophole that allows you to cut in.
Yeah, it allowed them to, so that they still aired it on a station that they owned. But that's a massive disservice to their viewers.
That's somebody needs to fix that with golf. I'm sure the PGA isn't happy about that. That's pretty sad. Well,
I would hope not.
Sorry about that.
A couple things too.
Hopefully this coming weekend we won't have that type of issue. It was a hell of a finish to the event. Again, Tony Finau. I think it was like 1,275 days between wins or something like that.
I think it was 2016 was the last one. And he competed in that Masters when he almost broke his ankle during that par 3 contest. Remember?
Yeah.
And then just the final round, it kind of gave out on him a little bit, but he was right there in it.
So Justin says CBS had it on in Columbia. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely a local decision as to whether you are or not going to air that. Yeah, wow. Well, no shocker in Columbia. Gamecocks, everything's right. Again, Shane Beamer going to meet with the media at 1:15 today. We will talk plenty of South Carolina football, but beforehand, I'm not sure if he's going to announce a starting quarterback today. I really have no idea. I haven't heard anything, and I'm not leaning one way or another. If they don't know, I don't think that they'll announce it. I know that they're wanting to announce it as soon as they can, But if they aren't sure yet, I doubt we'll hear anything. I also, though, don't think that it'll go into next week. I think that they're going to want to have somebody settled in probably before they start preparing for Eastern Illinois specifically. Once they get into game prep, I'm sure they're going to want to have QB1. So maybe he will announce it. I don't know, but we'll certainly keep our ears pinned at about 1:15 this afternoon for that news and other news. I'm sure Shane is going to update some injuries. By the way, just so all of you know, at 1:15 throughout the season on Tuesday afternoons is when Shane Beamer will meet with the media. And, of course, we're live on the air then, so we'll be able to give you kind of snippets of what's going on and fuss and discuss. We'll have all the reaction, though, to his press conferences on Tuesday. On our Wednesday shows, of course, joined by J.C. Sherbert for all of those. Some breaking news from the SEC. LSU is the first school in the Southeastern Conference that will require proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test for entry into Tiger Stadium. If you are 12 years and older, you will need to. Is it 12 years or older than 12?
12 and older, including
12 and older.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll need to show at least one dose of the vaccine, or on your vaccine card, or a negative COVID test within 72 hours of game day. And so I guess Wednesday or something, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you could go in there on Saturday. So the question with that, as it pertains to everybody else, is this what you would call maybe a domino, where other schools are waiting to see or not see? I don't have that answer. I would probably venture a guess that each school in every state is probably going to make their own decision based on local transmission rates or however they look at that stuff. But LSU has come right out full throttle. They said, show us that card. I think you can show it digitally. I think you can take a picture of it as well and show it at the gate. That would probably be my recommendation if any school out there is doing this, because I know I'm not personally, like, I don't want to take I guess there's going to be news to people. I don't want to take my vaccine card. Like, it's just like I don't want to take my Social Security card anywhere. Hell, I barely like taking my driver's license because I've lost that before. So I wouldn't be carrying that sucker around with me. So I think, according to their release, you'll be able to take a picture of this, and if other schools do it, I'm not really interested in the conversation as to whether they should or shouldn't. Darren, everybody's going to have their own opinion on that, and I'm not here. I'm excited for football season, so I like to talk about football. But I would also venture a guess, and I'm sure this is just kind of simple logic here, that any school in the country that's requiring this is, at least probably in the first week or two, going to run into some type of problems. You know what I mean? There's going to be somebody who forgets a vaccination card, and they probably are going to be vaccinated. And they're going to say, man, I've been vaccinated for 6 months. Well, you can't come in. You don't have the card. Well, I paid for my season tickets. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Those type of conversations are going to happen at these gates, and there's going to be problems.
Well, sure. Just like with anything, there are problems. But that's why they're getting this out in advance to hopefully cut that off. This isn't a surprise at all. The Saints already did it. We touched on it a little bit yesterday that I think it will be happening around the country. So this isn't like, I don't think it's going to happen everywhere, but I think it'll happen in a lot of places. And so this isn't surprising to me at all. And the other way to look at that is, while there could be problems at the gate, there will be, just like anything with any change or rollout of something, there are roadblocks. But the other way of looking at it is, if you don't do it, could there also be problems the other way? That'd be the logic of doing it in the first place. So,
yeah,
expect it to happen more. Expect it to happen more in the SEC. Expect it to happen more around all of sports and even outside of sports, at least for right now. Because, I mean, look, we're not going to have the conversation of right or wrong, but we can have the conversation of be realistic, and that's where it's going. More places are going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, these arguments, how it goes, Darren, they're going to ensue and they're going to happen. We're not going to spend 2 hours of our show with that, but Yeah, I mean, I would probably say if you're going to be going to a football game that is requiring this somewhere, and you generally go in 30 minutes early, you might want to make it 45 in that first game, at least that first game, or maybe the second game or whatever. But you might want to try to get in front of it and go ahead, and even if the Gamecocks, the Tigers right now are not requiring this. Pretty sure nobody actually in the state of South Carolina is. So if you're planning on going to any of these games, if you're a season ticket holder, which many of us are, spend a lot of money to do it. You can argue the fairness if you want to, because I'm with you. I all the money that I spend when I could be spending it somewhere else, I spend it on South Carolina. And if I forgot my card, I would be one pissed off individual if somebody didn't let me in that ballpark. So just out of a precaution, I've already taken photos of my vaccine card.
See, that's how easy it is.
Just out of precaution.
Don't make the mistake, right? I mean, that's why they're getting the news out early. But yeah, there'll be issues. Those situations will arise.
It's going to happen. So we'll see what happens in this state. I don't know. I'm venturing a guess now that this news has come out. That Shane Beamer will probably be asked about this today, and I'm about 99.9% sure he will say, I do not have that answer, and you can defer to Ray Tanner on that one. So that's that from the Bayou. The other question, Darren, is that how many people we're less than 2 weeks from the season, and there are going to be people who say, even if they are vaccinated, some people they just don't want to show you their card, and they're going to say, forget it, I'm done, I want my money back. So I'm sure those conversations are going to happen somewhere too, if they're not already happening.
They will.
It's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, they'll happen, and I don't think it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it'll happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It is certainly going to happen. So we'll keep our eyes on that, certainly, and we'll continue to monitor. Oregon and Oregon State, I believe, were the first two major programs that at least we know of in the country to require proof of vaccination. Hawaii's not even letting you in the gate. I bet you the folks in Hawaii would say, look, what if we show you our vaccine card? Can we come in? So I guess there's always a positive side to something. All right, coming up at 2:00 today, the Alliance announcement. Whatever. I'm laughing more and more at it because I was reading some of the better writers in the country this morning, some of their comments on this situation, and I think all of them are kind of on the same path with this. Like, hey man, if it's just about money and scheduling, just say it. Quit bringing this academic crap into it, because we all know that that's not true. That's what it looks like, Darren. This is what it looks like to me. They want to be able to vote together on future expansion of the college football playoff and things of that nature. Who knows if they're going to come up with some type of voting system where if there's teams that want to flip-flop conferences or something, I don't have any idea. And then they also are entertaining the non-conference tie-in type matchups. I would say very similar maybe to the ACC Big Ten Challenge or the SEC Big 12 Challenge in basketball. Not in a challenge sense, but the fact that they maybe have some type of scheduling philosophy. It looks like maybe the Big Ten and the Pac-12 might entertain going backwards to 8 league games to accomplish this, as opposed to maintaining the 9 that they're currently playing. But the questions with some of that are all right, good. So so this is about money. They're looking for made for TV matchups. They want to be able to get in the door to try to combat some of what the SEC is about to strike in their deal, or that they've already struck, and then they're going to continue to with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas. Okay, that's fine. But then, like, the one of the main schools I'd be most interested in speaking to on this is Clemson. And here's why. Because although Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, their conference schedule more often than not is just not good. But that's not their fault. And it's not their fault that South Carolina hasn't been any good basically for the last, 6 years. Okay. And that rivalry game is not going anywhere. So in addition to that, though, major credit to the Clemson football program led by Coach Sweeney and D-Rad, because they've scheduled Georgia, they've scheduled A&M, they've scheduled LSU, they've scheduled Oklahoma. I mean, they're playing major matchups. Obviously, they have the Notre Dame tie-in, but like Clemson specifically, and there are certainly others, but we're here in the state of South Carolina, so I want to give them credit. They deserve it. They've stepped up to the plate. I mean, Dabo Sweeney has got that Nick Saban model right there in his back pocket as far as scheduling goes. Hey, we'll play the big dogs from the SEC or the Oklahomas of the world because we're just as good as they are, and these are great matchups. And they're doing it this year with Georgia in a neutral site. So I guess my question with that is, all right, the ACC has 8 games. They've made every effort in the foreseeable future to in addition to South Carolina, to have another major program. So 10 of their 12, conference Power 5, basically SEC games for Clemson and then Oklahoma. And I'm sure they're exploring others. How do they feel about this? How are those conversations going between like D-Rad and Dabo? Like, well, now, wait a second. Because ABC or NBC or Fox or whoever wants us to travel to Oregon in 2025 when we already have Oklahoma and South Carolina on our schedule, we're going to do that? Wait a second. This doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So these conversations are going to be interesting. That's a complicated angle from this scheduling standpoint.
In a sense, there's one thing all of those teams that Clemson has scheduled that you pointed out that they've done well scheduling. There's one thing all of those teams have in common, including Oklahoma now. They're all in the SEC. So if this alliance takes shape, and it will, then one thing that could eventually happen down the line is if the Pac-12 and Big Ten go down to 8 teams, or 8 interconference games. They're talking about maybe a game a year between a Big Ten team and a Pac-12, a Big Ten team and an ACC, and you rotate through them all. So if that happens, how much room is left on Clemson's schedule to play an SEC, right? So then what happens if that happens to other teams that are also playing the SEC? It limits some of the scheduling options for the SEC at that point. Whereas for Clemson, I know the Clemson fans I've talked to are all about this because they're not huge fans of the SEC in the first place. So if there's anything that could say, hey, we're going to be on equal footing with the SEC, we're not necessarily going to hurt them now. We're not going to hurt them ever. But if we can stay on level footing with the SEC and not get drowned out by them, then let's do this. Because how cool would it be to go play Southern Cal? And how cool would it be to go play Michigan and to go play Penn State and to have one of those guys come in? And yes, there's going to be some of the, why the hell is Rutgers going to play Southern Cal? I get it. Like those games will happen. But that's not the point of this whole thing. The point is the marquee games. And there are enough major brand schools in all 3 conferences that there will be enough marquee games every single year that pique your interest. As a fan of the Big Ten, I've been saying this from the outset. I think this is great. As a fan of college football and just the sport, it makes all the sense in the world, and it's an absolute no-brainer what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and obviously you're looking for a TV deal when you do this. I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for Fox to step up and say, hey, here's what we'll do, or whomever it may be. ESPN, I don't know. Of course, ESPN airs all these games now anyway. So, but you hit on something that I certainly think is an interesting angle as well, and I would be interested to see what the language would be like, because you can't eliminate playing SEC teams, but you can certainly discourage it. You can't eliminate it. I mean, you have natural rivals in the ACC. And then also, if I think Ohio State and Alabama have a game set up. I can't remember what year that is, but 4 or 5 years down the line, Darren, maybe a little bit further. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if I'm UCLA, UCLA welcomes LSU to town this year. And if I'm UCLA and as part of the Pac-12 and because of that, as part of this alliance, there is language in these, what are we going to call them, contracts, agreements, I don't know, that say, you're really discouraged from scheduling SEC teams. We'd really like you to schedule more in this group here of 40 schools or whatever it is. I'd say go kick rocks. That's ridiculous. Like, we want to play LSU. We want to play Georgia. We want to play whoever. It doesn't matter. The SEC is still the premier league out there. You know what I mean? And there are teams
in UCLA's eyes and in everyone else's eyes outside of the SEC. Bringing in LSU is no different than bringing in a major brand from another conference, like a Penn State or a Michigan or an Ohio State or an Oregon or a Southern Cal or a UCLA. That's the same draw as LSU would be coming into town. It's not Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama's different.
I disagree. I think everybody is
like, people aren't just dying to be a part of the SEC. Like,
I'm not saying they're dying to be a part of the SEC. I'm saying they're dying to compete against and beat the SEC if they can. Everybody likes to hate the SEC outside of it. And everybody would love to have the opportunity to schedule those teams and beat those teams if they can. North Carolina. If North Carolina wants to beat South Carolina, this alliance all of a sudden is going to say, well, you really need to schedule Wisconsin. North Carolina is going to be like, well, now, wait a second. We would just like to play South Carolina. They're 4 hours away, and we beat them. We're good. They're not. Let's beat them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can prevent scheduling against this league. It might be discouraged, but I think that would totally backfire. I think.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can completely prevent it. No, but could you limit it? Well, it would inherently be limited if part of this thing is, all right, we're each going to play a team from the other two conferences each year.
Yeah.
Right. So then inherently you have fewer games to go schedule against anybody. Forget the SEC, but anybody. So can you still have Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State, Florida? Of course. Absolutely. Like, no brainer. But it will impact the ability to schedule other games, because if you're part of this contract, then that's the way you're moving.
Yeah. I mean, there might be that angle there. I mean, how can we squeeze the Southeastern Conference, out by virtue of having this alliance? But again, I got bad news for all of them. Those three commissioners don't know 1/3 of what Greg Sankey knows. And if I had to put my money on anybody, it's going to be Greg Sankey. What I don't want to happen, Darren, I don't want there to be this divide in the sport of like this group and this group. I don't want that. They got to find a way to unify. I don't care if they have an alliance of scheduling or whatever. They got to find a way to unify something and continue to grow this sport, move it forward.
So, yeah, because I don't think whatever happens, the SEC isn't gobbling up the other three leagues and like putting them out of business.
No.
The other three leagues are not gobbling up the SEC and putting it out of business. Whatever happens and however it looks, and I've been now saying this for weeks, however this whole thing looks, it'll be this group that we know of in the SEC, and whatever the additional group is going to be and how big it gets, 40, 50, 60 teams, that group one day is going to break away, and it'll be their own level of football. And then how that looks will be shaped by whatever you want to call it. And if it's the SEC and, I don't know, big pack back or something, whatever you want to call that thing, whatever you want to call your two divisions, this whole NFL model logic of thinking is the only end game here. It's just a matter of how we get there and then what it looks like when we get there. So there will be unity, but it'll be the top guys and then whoever gets left behind.
Then all those guys.
Yeah, everybody else. And then they're playing, I guess, essentially group of 5 and down.
As Adam Sandler said in The Wedding Singer, the mutants at table 9. Speaking of 9, 12:29 on this Tuesday afternoon. Mike Morgan might have some thoughts on this. He, of course, is with ESPN and the SEC Network, all set to call college football finally back in a ballpark again next Saturday. He joins us next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. 12:32. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Cory McCartney is ahead today at 1:30. The Braves, of course, have been hot. Lose last night to Jordan Montgomery, former left-handed pitcher for the South Carolina Gamecocks. But that's okay. They're still 4.5 up in the East. Did you know, by the way, that Stokes Volkswagen has the most pre-owned Volkswagen Atlas models in the Low Country, and it's not close, on their lot out there in North Charleston? Reliable, spacious, great service. Mike Mazzell runs the joint. Wonderful guy. Great friend of Darren and his wife, certainly. A proud friend of mine. He's a friend of the Low Country, as a matter of fact. But not only do they have the spacious and reliable Atlas, they got a lot of used cars. They got a lot of used trucks. They're well priced. And if you're planning to tailgate this football season and you got something that just ain't working, that's probably where you want to go. Whether it's the truck so you can fit the grill and the tables and the tents, whether it's the quad cab truck so you can also fit the kids, don't forget them, whether it's some type of SUV, whatever it is, soup up your tailgate at Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Well, would you look at that? Did you ever see that YouTube video, Darren? Would you look at that? You and I don't have a hat, and Mr. No Hat has a hat on today, Mike Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, you preached enough at us, man.
You really want to take the hat off? I'll take the hat off, but I'm not responsible for scaring the women and children watching right now. Oh no, let me see what this looks like.
Yeah,
look at that. There's the hat off.
There's the old American Pie. Jesus, Jim, put your shirt on. You're scaring the chicks away.
Great movie. Great lines. Yeah,
they're all the American Pies. Totally my favorites. I love them all.
Well, third one's what? American Wedding,
and then American Reunion. Yeah, not the knockoff crap that they made in some warehouse in South Dakota. With the real actors. Those four. That series is
great. What's funny is the only one that really went on to anything was the girl, and I don't watch the show, but it's very popular. The flute girl, the band girl, that one time at band camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. She, How I Met Your Mother, is that the show?
Yes, I believe. Yes, definitely, because I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very popular. I never got into it, but it's a very popular show. But I mean, everybody else on that show had it's like they immediately cashed in, signed a 2-movie deal. The movies flopped, and then they were never to be heard from again.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict those things. The people if you would have told me the biggest movie star of 2021 was going to be The Rock, a backup defensive lineman for Miami who was then a wrestler. It seems like he has the same 7 lines in every movie, but I think he's like the highest generating film star of the day. And he has crossover appeal. I mean, he's got kids movies and he's got adult movies, and I don't know if he can act, but he's making a whole lot of money doing it.
I actually thought he was funny in Baywatch. Did you ever see that remake of Baywatch? I actually thought he was funny.
No, but I certainly wasn't expecting you to go there.
I did not see that coming.
I get it.
What was that nominated for exactly? No, I did not see Baywatch the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Believe
learning
it or
a
not.
lot about you today, Jamie.
I know. Well,
I thought you were going to go Moana because I've seen that 100,000 times by this point, and he was very good with his little caricature of himself. But
no.
Yeah, but you went Baywatch.
I'm very comfortable with who I am. I said it publicly. It's okay. All right, Mike. So speaking of what are we going to say publicly, what do you think this 2:00 press conference to announce this alliance is going to be here in about an hour and a half? What's in your eyes, in your mind? What is all this about?
This is very reactionary to what the SEC did. And I'm a big believer in any walk of life. The biggest motivator, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your occupational life, being a parent, being a husband, being whatever, the biggest motivator in life is fear. Fear makes you do certain things and makes you work towards certain goals that you might not otherwise do or accomplish. The fear that, and I'm not saying it's a justified fear, but the fear that the SEC is going to take over the world and is gotten too powerful and too strong. So let's go ahead and talk. So it does 2 things. Number one, it gives you a voting block at the table because you're not 12 schools or 14 schools, you're 40. Number 2, they have, and I would really love to see the fine print on this, but as I understand it from the reporting of Heather Dinich and Andy Staples, who I was just on with last week on SiriusXM, that they have an agreement in place that says, you don't poach me, I won't poach you, right? So the Big Ten is not going to poach Southern Cal. The ACC is not going to poach, I don't know, Illinois, Michigan State. I don't know. I mean, there's only so many valuable pieces on the table, right? As I'll mention one other piece that was written in The Athletic. The goal of the TV networks is what games can generate 4 million viewers. And there's very few schools that actually play on national television that generate 4 million. So, I mean, the list you can think of it from the SEC. It's Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Florida, A&M, depending on who they play. In the Big Ten, it's Ohio State, Michigan, and the Pac-12, it's Southern Cal, so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's how they look at this. And so, with this alliance, the third thing is, you're not poaching anybody, and we're going to go ahead because on our surface we can't match up with the SEC, but let's get more intriguing out of conference matchups, and let's even consider dialing it back to 8 conference games, which the ACC already has, and 2 of those non-con games would be against the other part of the alliance. So if you are Clemson, you have a guaranteed 2 out of conference games, 1 against the Big Ten, 1 against the Pac-12. I think every fan loves that part of the idea. Like, that's cool. More intriguing interconference matchups. That's great. But that alone is not moving the needle. And really none of this, quite honestly, moves the needle a whole lot. So there's been so much talk about, well, now that we've got a voting block, now we can delay playoff expansion. Okay. I mean, the SEC is going to be there every year, whether it's 4 or 12. The SEC is going to have more teams in it, whether it's 4 or 12. You're the ones that are going to have to look in the mirror when you're shut out in a 14 playoff and say, you did this to yourselves. The SEC doesn't have that problem to worry about. The Big Ten has been shut out before. The Pac-12 is living in shutout land. And the ACC, if Clemson has a down year, chances are they're shut out. So, I mean, any move you make is either going to help the SEC or it's going to hurt yourselves. Like you're not gaining anything on the SEC from this move. I think it's more of a protective move. It's more of a, hey, let's protect one another now before this thing gets out of hand. And that part I understand. The people that are like, oh boy, now you've done it, SEC. Now you've ticked them off and they've got this holy alliance. SEC's not sweating anything.
I don't think that's what
I agree.
See, my perception of the reaction isn't so much, oh, wow, like everyone's all pissed off. To me, it just makes all the sense in the world, right? Like it's not let's knock down the SEC, because that's not going to happen. And there's smart enough people to know you're not going to knock them down or knock them off. But can you play ball on the same field? Like that's the point of this. And that gets them to that point. So then whatever the group is that breaks away, we're all on that field that leaves and breaks away. Isn't that more of the logic than let's go, hit the SEC at their knees?
I think that's more of the logic. I do think they were starting to be, I don't want to say paranoid, but at least worried that the SEC was getting way too powerful. And we haven't even talked about TV rights and ESPN's allegiance to the SEC, and that two of those three leagues are partially in bed with Fox, and there's a lot to unwrap there. But yeah, I think, Darren, that is definitely a lot of it. I think a lot of the anti-SEC sentiment out there is celebrating this as this major move to really combat what the SEC did. I'm of the belief, and I could be naive on this, I'm of the belief the SEC, the goal here was never to like take over college football. Two premier programs knocked at their door, rang the bell, and pleaded to join. It would be hypocrisy beyond belief to say the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big Ten would not have done the same thing. In fact, Texas was not days or weeks or months, but was hours away from joining the Pac-12 when they were vulturing up programs and trying to do it in the process. They just failed on Texas because the Longhorn Network came together in the 11th hour, and that saved the Big 12 as we know it. So all this, there's a lot of hypocrisy going on here. The SEC didn't do anything that every other league is trying to do, which is look out for its best interest. But I don't think the SEC is now saying, okay, now we got 16. Let's bring in 4 more. Let's go ahead and get 20. Let's get 25. I don't see that. I think they're just sitting here with a pat hand like, we're good. We've got the best football conference. We may be on our way to having the best basketball conference. We got the best baseball conference. We got the best Olympic sport conference. We got the best attendance for football, environment for football. Remember those $4 million games? 4 million viewer games I was alluding to. Guess who's going to lead the way in that? So I don't think the SEC was this hungry monster that wanted to gobble up everything like some people do. But I do think there might have been some fear from the powers that be. And let's not forget, these 3 commissioners we're alluding to are all relatively new. Kliavkoff and Phillips, very new on the job. And Kevin Warren in his second year, I can't imagine the first year could have gotten any worse for Kevin Warren if he deliberately tried. So you've got 3 people who are just kind of finding their way in this whole thing. And here's Greg Sankey like, okay, we're good. So I don't think it's going to be here. One last thing. I know I'm all over the place. This is a very fiery topic for me because I think it's half exciting, and then I'm also half disappointed in the way some people view this or think it's or the way it's being covered. The Big Ten doesn't need to panic either. Big Ten is the most lucrative conference in college athletics.
Exactly.
They're going to be just fine. The ACC doesn't need to panic. Now, they're not making as much money, and they're upset about the deal, apparently. They look at what their TV revenue is going to be over the next 15 years compared to the other conferences. But again, they don't need to panic. And for that matter, even the Pac-12 doesn't need to panic. They just need to hold on to what they have and presumably maybe add a little bit here in the near future. But college football is not that different than it was before the move that Oklahoma and Texas made. The SEC was already the preeminent conference in college football. You still had the Power Five. Now it might be the Power Four. We'll see. Every conference is looking after its own best interest, and they still are. Like, this alliance doesn't mean the Big Ten is like, hey, kumbaya with the Pac-12 and anything we can do to help. Hey, you need an extra $10 million? Our contract is more than yours. We'll float it over to you. You know, it's a forgiving loan. You don't pay it back if you don't pay it back. No, they're still out to their best interest, like everything else. And Ohio State's still going to be a power, and Clemson's still going to be a power. And Southern Cal, if they get their you-know-what together, they will be a power again. Nothing changes just because Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC.
Is there's something Darren and I were discussing, and we'll kind of get off this topic afterwards, but because we're still kind of speculating. We don't exactly know the details. But do you think that there's any part of this that will be discouraging towards scheduling the Southeastern Conference? I mean, if they want to schedule these two games against each other every year, I mean, take Clemson, for instance. Let's say they look at the 2026 schedule and say, well, Clemson, you got LSU on that schedule, but we'd really like you to have Ohio State and Washington State. You know what I mean? Why would Clemson even want to do that?
Right. Well, I mean, first off, that's a dirty pool if you start trying to back out of deals like that just because they're non-alliance matchups. Secondly, nothing is going to get rid of South Carolina, Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Georgia Tech. So, you can use the SEC as your personal voodoo doll if you want. It's not going to change the fact that there's still going to be business done with one another. There's still going to be, matchups in football and basketball alike. So, you could try to encourage in the future, okay, Clemson, don't play any more out-of-conference games against the SEC minus South Carolina. You can do that, but is Clemson going to listen?
No,
they're gonna not play Georgia. Like that. They don't have to do that for what? The sake of the common good. Clemson doesn't need that. Clemson's in great shape.
Right.
They are one of those 4 million eyeballs programs that can get those kind of matchups. So why would you? Again, there's a whole lot of talk about things that, in my estimation, for those leagues and many of their programs would be simply a case of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like, you are so angry at the SEC for adding 2 programs that any other league would have added that you're going to make certain legislation and deals and avoid certain deals just to, quote unquote, stick it to the SEC. I don't think there's much logic in that.
Mike Morgan, 12:48 on this Tuesday afternoon. Cannot wait for that Syracuse-Rutgers matchup in 3 years. Mike, let's transition to the SEC, as a matter of fact, and talk about South Carolina. So I think Darren said something. He does this from time to time, something that makes sense. I'm just kidding, Darren. But he said something yesterday that did make a lot of sense about this Zeb Nolan situation. I'm quite sure you're up to speed here. Darren was like, get past the headlines, right, Darren? Get past the headlines. I said, get past the cute little ticker on ESPN and actually look at the story and the history of Zeb Nolan. Don't get me wrong. I'm not proclaiming that the next water boy is on the Gamecocks roster. That's not what I'm saying here. But the headline is going to be GA becomes quarterback, and if he starts, becomes starting quarterback at South Carolina, at least for a game or two, maybe. So how do you view this situation? Nobody dreamed that on August the 24th, a little over a week from kickoff, we'd be talking about a GA turned starting quarterback potentially for South Carolina. We'll see if Shane announces that today or not. But how do you view this here as the Beamer era is about to get going in Columbia? How does this resonate across the country? Is it good?
Well, I think it look, with all due respect to Mr. Noland, it shows just how thin things got under Will Muschamp. And quite frankly, just how thin things got under Steve Spurrier. Like, this is the second wave now of Gamecock football starting from a standpoint of they're really low in numbers at key positions. Like, it shouldn't come down to this, but this is what happens when you have two coaches that leave in a less than great situation. And I say that knowing full well, very seldom does a coach get fired where, the cupboard is just completely full and everything is great and hunky dory. This happens. But, I don't know if there's a definitive plan B. And people might say, well, if only we had Helinski. I mean, Helinski didn't win the starting job at Northwestern the last time I checked. I hate it for him. He's a great story, but I don't know if he was ready at this level. And so you just don't have a lot of options. Now, it's not to say the cupboard is completely bare. Again, they've got a good O-line, D-line, good running backs, good players in certain positions. The fact that Jordan Birch is fighting for playing time on the second string tells me something, right? It says you're pretty good at defensive end. Some would say, well, it's also a sign that maybe he's not ready to be a 5-star. But I think it's obviously you would have just liked to see what you have in Luke Doty in week 1, and hopefully he'll be ready in week 2. But he needs reps. He needs to show he can throw the ball downfield. He needs to prove that he's ready to be a passer at this level, and we're not there yet, is what I'm sure Shane Beamer and company are saying. So, yeah, it'd be a great story, but it's like, even if he lights it up against Eastern Illinois, you know how I always say not all FCS programs are built alike. This is not playing an elite FCS program. There's some FCS programs that if South Carolina scheduled them right now with your starting quarterback out, you might have to sweat it Saturday, and you might really learn something about who's playing. I don't know if you're going to learn a whole lot on Saturday.
Yeah, my point was basically you get past the headline, like you said, because if you're just trying to beat Eastern Illinois, this guy is the one thing of the three competing, the only one who isn't going to be possibly wowed by walking into an SEC stadium against Eastern Illinois is a guy who's walked into big stadiums and done big things. Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier could easily be walking out there with these bright eyes, saying, "Oh my God!" And then you have no idea what's going to happen in the game. So that was my point. Like, is this ideal? No. Is this going to be the headline? Yes, but maybe it wins you the game.
Yeah, just don't do anything stupid. Send the guy out there that's not going to do anything stupid. You
You sound like the drill instructor in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, but I mean, Mike, like, I think what this also says is for all of the spring game experts, not to point anybody out here, call you out, but you probably should know who you are at this point in time. This quarterback competition wasn't close at South Carolina. I mean, Luke Doty was way ahead.
I wasn't aware that it was. I never thought it was. I thought Doty was the guy all the way.
You're exactly right. It wasn't close. But, I mean, people saw spring game on the SEC network. They saw 4 throws by Jason Brown, and all of a sudden it's, right. Well, my God, this coaching staff doesn't know any more than the last staff. And
2 words, Taki Muhammad. Remember when he caught like 18 passes in a spring football game and then never amounted to much of anything? Yeah, I don't.
Way back in the well.
That's a deep pull right there, baby. That is a deep pull. I don't even know how my brain thrust that name up to the top.
That's impressive.
It's impressive and embarrassing at the same time. It's kind of like talking about movies from The Rock. But yeah, nobody. Okay. Spring quarterback numbers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Like, I had the Mississippi State spring game, and if you would have seen that game, you would have thought Will Rogers clearly does not belong to start for the Bulldogs, and he will be the starter. And my guess is he won't relinquish the job, but he didn't have a great game, and the backup, who just happened to be a 3-year starter at Southern Miss, had a much better game. But I mean, Doty, until they start getting the guys in that they need to get in, Doty is probably going to be the guy. I like these kind of games for where Carolina is. I know fans will complain about FCS and et cetera, but I think this is what you need, quite frankly. Where you are, I need a game like this if I'm Shane Beamer to really kind of figure things out without having to be scared to death of losing. Remember how many people were excited about that North Carolina game a couple of years ago? And how'd you feel about it after the game was over? It was like the season it was already over after week 1. Everybody was crying in their beer, and they were kind of onto something because Carolina and Will Muschamp never recovered from that loss, and North Carolina went shoo, and South Carolina went shoo, and all because you had a quality opponent that everybody was excited about in week 1, but you thought you should win the game, and you didn't. And next thing you know, Mac Brown is dancing in the birth of Sam Howell and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they're not there. I was actually having this conversation with somebody this morning on the phone. He brought up a great point. He said, honestly, we've been doing this a long time. We've watched 12 games a year, 11 games a year, whatever, for decades. How many times does Carolina really look good in game 1, regardless of who they play?
Oh, gosh.
And it's
not a
there's
ton.
Not many, Mike. There's not many.
I did a lot of those games, either on pay-per-view or the replay games, and I can tell you a lot of them were hard to call because it was a team that looked just shaky and rusty. And, again, there's no preseason in college football, so that's not that uncommon. But then when you combine that with a game that maybe not everybody's geared up for and the crowd is not quite as electric as it would be for when you're playing Georgia or Clemson or Florida. So all that can equate to a lackluster performance. Heck, I had A&M against Vanderbilt last year in week 1. College Station. And by the way, their crowds were they led the way in attendance during COVID. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
Seeing that. Oh, that's 12,000, huh? Or whatever.
Right. But if you watch that game against a very bad Vanderbilt team, Texas A&M looked like a team that was not ready for the big time at all. They didn't play well on offense. They didn't play well on defense. They turned it over. They had careless penalties. It was just a whole lot of blah. And I remember one of the people in our production truck who's actually a huge A&M fan was like, yep, same old A&M. This team isn't going anywhere. Because week 1, you just don't always bring it. And so I would rather, if I'm in the spot where Carolina's at, I don't need to skip. Like I wouldn't want, and I'm not saying at East Carolina is a scary game, but I wouldn't want that in week 1 with this scenario right now. I wouldn't. No. I don't need all that now. Just give me the dub, and we'll figure things out as we move along.
I mean, I think as we get closer and closer, I think East Carolina is going to probably present some more challenges than we want to think right now. All right, last couple of a few minutes with you here, Mike. We might go over the 1 o'clock hour by a minute or two, as long as Darren here says
it's your show. I mean, you guys make the rules and the parameters, and we're powered by Wando Power Equipment, so I've got enough juice to actually go beyond the 30-minute window.
Pull that generator chain. Yeah, let's keep
just crank it out.
I do want to start next week. We'll actually be able to start talking about actual games, but I want to ask you about Kentucky. Because this is Kentucky's high on a lot of boards to maybe finish 3rd in the East. There's some folks out there that think they could even climb to 2nd. I don't think anybody has them being ahead of Georgia in 1st place, but Mark Stoops feels like he's got a quarterback. Darren, he is very well. Will Levis from Penn State didn't do a ton up there.
Did you see him eat the banana? Speaking of Levis, did you see that clip?
Oh, that's why I think they're going to go 4-8, not 8-4. That was just ridiculous. But I mean, they do return a bunch of guys on defense in some key spots as well. The Rodriguez kid at tailback's pretty good, Mike. They return a bunch of guys up front. I think they're pretty good in the trenches.
Offensive line's very good. That's become one of the most consistent offensive line programs in the league.
And Eric Wolford's up there. Just left South Carolina.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah,
good to know.
He's their new O-line coach. So give us what you know on the Wildcats. Gamecocks going to have them in week 4 at home. That's what many are considering the barometer game. Everybody's like, hey, get to 2-0. Whatever happens in Athens happens.
Right.
And then you got Kentucky. There's your barometer game. So what do we know about the Wildcats? What are your expectations?
I might have them in week 3. I think it's 50-50 whether I have them or Tennessee, or maybe it's Missouri. Anyway, I want to see Will Levis. I want to see what this kid's all about. If you believe the hype, if you believe the people out of Kentucky, and I've got some good sources there because I'm marrying a Kentucky girl, as you know. So I was up there for 10 days recently, and I know a few folks around that program. They haven't been this excited about a quarterback in Lexington in a long time. So banana or no banana, he is kind of a physical freak who is not used much at Penn State. And when he was, it was more as a runner than a thrower. But they believe that he's got NFL written on him. Like he's got that kind of skill set. They haven't had like a really good throwing quarterback since Andre Woodson. And he never made it in the league. You got to go back to Tim Couch the last time a Kentucky quarterback was actually getting reps at QB in the NFL. So if they have that, that's been the missing link. I mean, you could say it's been the missing link since Connor Shaw at South Carolina and many years before him. That is the difference maker because Kentucky has been doing everything else well. Not great, not Alabama, not A&M, LSU, but they've been doing everything really well. Offensive line, like I said, consistently one of the best in the league. Defensively, solid, right? Just solid. Not Georgia good, solid. Running backs, good. They've had some good backs going, and a lot of them now are getting time in the league. The two positions they have lacked are quarterback and wide receiver. And so that's what everybody's going to be looking at out of Kentucky early on. And by the time Carolina sees them, you're going to know a lot more. Is Will Levis, is he the real deal? And does he have anybody to throw to? Because at times they have just their wide receivers. Mm-hmm. I that's part of the game I always watch. I watch if wide receivers separate, and they haven't had guys separate. It is, I don't care what you look like coming off the bus. I don't care how tall you are, your wingspan, your hand size, your 40. If you don't separate, you're making life on quarterbacks hard. They haven't had that. So those two things. But again, I haven't heard a whole lot of hype on their receivers, although Ray Lewis's son, who's a walk-on, apparently is opening up some eyes. True story. But I'll tell you what, Will Levis is definitely that's the guy they've been waiting on. And it's not a surprise that he won the job. He won it running away.
I can tell you only what I saw at Penn State. Mm-hmm. He does have a big arm. I mean,
no question.
He's got a rocket.
Yes, NFL arm.
He's a big physical dude.
Mm-hmm.
He could never put it all together to upend Clifford. Whether it was him, whether it was the coaching staff, who knows? But there was a lot of anticipation of, hey, we got this guy behind Clifford.
Right.
And if we need him, we can go to him. And we went to him and So, is a change of scenery what he needed? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes that's what it takes. Now it didn't exactly pan out the way Shea Patterson had hoped at Michigan. I mean, he was an upgrade, but he wasn't like light the world on fire when he had the change of scenery. So you never know how these things are going to go. But I mean, look, with all due respect to who's Terry Allen. Terry Williams?
Terry Wilson.
Terry Wilson, thank you.
Yeah.
With all due respect to him, he was a fine quarterback, and they won a lot of games with him. But he was kind of a game manager. Like they didn't ask a whole lot of him. They're very conservative offense. They've got a new coordinator in Cohen, who they say is going to actually open up that offense. I'm always I'll believe it when I see it, because I hear this about a lot of head coaches. They bring in a coordinator, but if the head coach, if Mark Stoops wants to keep it conservative, then you work for him. You will keep it conservative. But if he does what he normally does, Cohen that is, and opens it up, and you got a quarterback with a big arm, and you got running backs, and you got an O-line, that's why a lot of people are high on Kentucky this year. That's why a lot of people are picking them to finish as high as second in the Eastern Division. I'm not ready to go that far, but some people actually are that high on them.
The Cohen guy, his story is similar to Marcus Satterfield's, is it not? He was an assistant somehow in the NFL, young guy, spent some time around some of the better minds out there, and here he is. Isn't that true? What's the guy at the Rams? He was with the Rams. He was the quarterbacks coach at the Rams, right?
I believe so. You got me Yes, he was an LA Rams assistant coach. I'm trying to think of when, but he's a McVay guy.
Yeah, he's a McVay. That's what
I don't know the exact years, but it's anytime it's like who was for a while there. Well, I mean McVay. I mean for the last few years, anybody who, even if you just held a clipboard for McVay, it was like, poof, you've been touched by the hand of offensive genius God. You will get a higher job. I mean, that's how it works in our business. In that business, I just included myself in that as if I'm going to be a coach. I am available. I'm great on Madden, but no, I mean, anytime you bring a guy from the NFL that has those kind of concepts, they typically do well. They typically they're ahead of the curve. As dynamic as college offenses have become, the NFL in terms of true passing concepts and play calling, it's usually a little more advanced. So they're very excited about him. I mean, they had some guys before that were really good at ground and pound, control the clock, limit mistakes. And that's what Mark Stoops wanted. Well, even once Nick Saban realized I can't just win national titles every year doing that, I think that produced a domino effect where even other conservative head coaches like a Kirby Smart at Georgia, like a Mark Stoops at Kentucky, realized, you know what? You just can't win consistently big games in college football with that mentality. It's not 1990s or even early 2000s. Like, you got to be a little more open in your passing game, and you got to take a little more chances. You can't win games the way Lou Holtz would have loved to have won games post Phil Petty with Dondriel Pinkins and Corey Jenkins, and just run the Tony Rice Notre Dame offense. And that's really hard to do, especially if you don't have super, super duper superior talent than your opponents.
That's a great point. It's Kentucky. I mean, in all honesty, I'm not saying that the records will be similar or anything like that, but a lot of what we've heard about the Wildcats are about a lot of the same things we've actually heard about the Gamecocks. Are pretty good in the trenches, got a really good running game, and we'll kind of see what happens. The difference is Carolina's won 6 games in 2 years combined.
As long as I can remember, with a couple of exceptions, when Carolina had their major blip of 3 straight 11-win seasons, and then Kentucky had their blip of back-to-back, is it 9-win seasons, 10-win seasons? 10-win seasons, I think.
Was it 10 or was it 9 and 10? Somewhere in there.
I thought it might have been back-to-back 10 if you include the bowl games. But Darren will, you guys will keep me straight. Either way,
let's get Google on that. Yeah.
With the exception of, I'm pretty sure Kentucky was back-to-back 10-win, but
18 they won 10, 18 they won 10, and 19 they won 8.
What about 17?
No, they won 7 and 17.
Okay, so they didn't win back-to-back 10.
They won 18 games in 2 years.
There you go. 2 years they were better than average.
And then remember, one of those, of course, a quarterback goes down, and they're playing a wide receiver, Lynn Bowden, at quarterback.
Yeah, that's the year they beat Penn State in the Citrus Bowl, right? 27-24. Darren, do you remember that one?
It sounds about right.
That'd be their 10th win, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, but for as long as I can remember, there's been this jockeying back and forth between South Carolina and Kentucky. There's a lot of similarities, and the if you take like a 20-year, 30-year sample between those two programs, and they both have some of the same. They both have had some of the same limitations in that they haven't been able to just get the bona fide stud quarterback like some of the other programs in this league do. They haven't been able to maul you on the line of scrimmage like the elite programs do. But at times they've been pretty doggone good, and they've been able to surprise some people. I think the average Gamecock fan, and I get this, says, well, we should be better than Kentucky. They're a basketball school. Well, you should be better than Kentucky because you've got better recruiting ground. You've got, you've got a lot of things going for it. The facility's never been better. But I will say this, the whole notion, I've never bought into this, that Kentucky is a basketball school and therefore they don't care about that. That's ridiculous. Most of the people I know in Kentucky are season ticket holders for football. In fact, I know a number of people that are a whole caravan of people that picked Columbia as their road trip this year. They pick one road trip, just like Gamecock fans do, right?
Yep.
Where they want to go see Williams-Brice, and they want to see the Cats and Cox do battle in Columbia. But those two programs haven't been able to separate a whole lot from one another. And I think there's always this like, okay, Georgia is here. Florida seems to be back on solid ground, but why can't we be third at bare minimum is the mindset from a lot of what I would say realistic fans. Why can't we at least be third? And that's why that game is always so big every year. It's completely under the radar. Nobody nationally talks about Carolina, Kentucky. Nobody. Right. But if you follow those two programs, you know how big that game is.
Absolutely. And especially, now Carolina is where Kentucky used to be, especially in the pecking order in the East and in this rivalry. There was a time, Mike, and you know it very well. We'll let you run on this note. Gamecocks, they didn't lose to Kentucky. They would here and there, but they didn't have a problem beating Kentucky. That was a win. You look at the schedule of the year, that was a win.
Right.
Yeah, well, that all changed in 2014 when they blew that fourth corner lead, and ever since then, Carolina's won all of once against the Wildcats.
One time.
Twice. Just
wow.
It's amazing.
It's a sneaky, because how many was it before that Carolina beat Kentucky?
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's like 8 in a row or something.
No, well, pretty consistently, except for the 2010 game. They were beating the crap out of them in the first half up there, and then Lattimore went down with that injury after the week after they beat Alabama.
That's right.
That was a strange through. They go down, they blow the fourth quarter game in Auburn, 4 straight turnovers. They lose to Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Turn around, they beat Alabama. They go to Lexington, they lose. I mean, it was and then they get the SEC championship.
Yeah, the memory of an elephant, man. I swear, you could just reminisce on games and just know like the month and year of when it happened.
Yeah, unfortunately,
sadly, that's been my life. It's made for a lot of pain.
My family's been in the Gamecock Club for 55 years. I wonder how crazy we all actually are, and we think we're not, but we apparently
are.
Wow.
Hey, by the way, congratulations to Jerry Myers.
Really great, huh? That's going to be a party up there. Him and Toman. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I hope you get one of their games next year somewhere on TV somehow.
Awesome. That's going to be tough unless they play. Yeah, that's going to be tough. I don't know if Middle Tennessee State's going to get a whole lot of national TV game. Yeah, maybe on a Tuesday night. I don't know. It's going to be tough. That has school production broadcast written all over it. If it and I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure they'll schedule. I'm sure.
They know everybody.
Everybody knows everybody, and they'll make that happen. Not too far of a drive from Columbia to Murfreesboro,
or anywhere. I'm interested. Maybe I text Holbrook and find out, see if the college in Middle Tennessee have set up something, because Chad
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, Chad, absolutely.
Two comparable programs. I'm glad you said that, because you've known Jerry a long, long time, and
since 2000. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I've known Coach. I told Darren yesterday, I used to see him at Carolina football games the last few years. He was kind of working them, as a part of the staff up there. Just a great guy. First of all, he knows baseball. He's the quiet assassin. He kind of, and you realize 20 minutes later, oh my God, I just learned about so much. But he's just a wonderful person, and I'm so happy for him. That's great. Great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm happy for Jim Toman. I'm hoping Stu Lake. I had a long talk with Stu, and I had a feeling that was heading down that direction. And who knows, maybe if we had a third full-time assistant coach like we should have in college baseball, he'd still be at Carolina. But there's a number of things he could do well. Or if he's not just going to jump at any job in the country. He's very happy living in Columbia, has a son who's a good player, and we'll see how that all pans out as well. But I'm happy for all those guys. Well,
and on this final note here, into the way back tank, but of course it's now part of today's present Gamecock baseball program. Got a text this morning from Scott Wingo, and he is gonna. He's going to hop on with us next week.
Good.
Lord Wingo. It's Scott Wingo.
It's Scott Wingo. I was singing his praises doing the South Bend Regional. I mean, they loved him over there, the players and coaches. But obviously, he's glad to be back home. Stuart Wingo, not nearly as athletic or heroic, Probably was the kid who struck out in Little League every time up. Couldn't throw the ball properly. A little bit of a Timmy Lupus vibe from Bad News Bears out in right field.
Oh, yeah.
But I say all these things not to be cruel, but to point out we all have a purpose in life, and his is to save people thousands of dollars on a new mortgage, and that's what he does better than anybody. The phone number you see on your screen, or if you're just streaming audio-wise, 803-319-1777. I thought about this. I'm 100% sincere in that I will for the next one of your listeners that gets a new mortgage through Stewart, I'll buy him dinner over there in wherever you are, at Charleston.
We got him everywhere. Yeah.
I need to go to Charleston anyway. But if they'd rather have dinner with, I can't pick up the tab for all three of you, but one of you pick Jamie or Darren. I will be more than happy to pick up the meal, maybe go to Halls or something, and I'll take care of that. It's my community service to not only have you save a bunch of money through Stewart Wingo, but to also have a fine meal on the house.
Sounds good.
Full of giveaways around here. As long as you spend money, we'll give you something. So,
that's right.
Actually, you're saving money by
You're going to be saving money and getting a free meal. That's pretty much the way. That's the way life was supposed to be. My life, anyway.
I was about to say. Well, starting this weekend, all of our lives will get a little bit better with college football being back. Might not be a big magical weekend, Mike, but there is college football. There's Big Ten.
I don't care. Yeah, just getting ready for games. Looking forward to that, and we've had the most. I was saying this the other day, like if you do a 3-hour talk show, or in your case, a 2-hour talk show in the summer. This has been a gift from the college football gods, what you guys have been given. Because you've had so many things to talk about that are major, major storylines. You're not sitting there and breaking down the too deep every day. That being said, I'm ready for just games. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to just go into it and just start looking at scoreboards, watching highlights, and just enjoying Saturdays on the field as opposed to all the chaos that is off the field.
And next week, we'll be able to start driving around the SEC and other big games in the country with you, Mike. Really looking forward to that. Looking forward to you being back on the call next weekend as well. And until next Tuesday, adios, my friend, and great job as always.
Thank you. Enjoyed it, guys.
There you go, Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network. Time for a timeout. Shane Beamer on the podium. We'll update you on his comments from Columbia next, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Vatican Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
1:20 on this Tuesday afternoon. We do have Cory McCartney coming up in the next segment. We'll talk to him about the Braves and Miguel Cabrera and much more. But first, to Columbia we go. Shane Beamer is meeting with the media and kind of give you some updates on what he's got to say, and any update on the quarterback position we'll pass along here in just a little bit as well. But Shane is I'm sitting here kind of keeping an eye on things on the screen to my right. So when I look, just bear with me. Pretty pleased, according to Coach Beamer, with the scrimmage this past weekend, and said it was actually one of the cleaner scrimmages he's been a part of. Take that for whatever you believe that it means. But this week's going to be more of a mock draft, essentially, for next week as they prepare for Eastern Illinois. Camp is wrapped up officially for South Carolina, and it is now into game prep mode. So they will start kind of preparing for Eastern Illinois. That should probably give you a little bit of a hint that they're getting pretty close to settling down on a quarterback. Generally, when you start going that direction, you kind of start putting your starters in place, and you're too deep in this, that, and the other. So that's what it kind of looks like for Carolina. Also kind of commented on preseason scrimmages, and Shane is one of those that is in favor of college football. Darren, we talk about this every year, being able to play a preseason scrimmage against another opponent. He said they're the only sport that doesn't allow outside competition in the preseason. I don't know that I totally agree with that. I agree and I don't agree. Like, I agree because it would help your team prepare. But when you're in the situation like they're in, kind of having to pull the tag off a GA, it's kind of like, well, what if something else happens?
So I'll say this then. Someone brought up a good point. I don't remember who I was listening to, but it was about the NFL preseason and quarterbacks who are not taking a single snap in the preseason. And the counterpoint was, well, you realize they're taking live fire snaps in these competitive, in the NFL, you practice together. So you have these like practice scrimmages because you're practicing with another team, except in that instance, the quarterback can't get hit. So while it's a full live game, there's protection on the quarterback, whereas in a typical preseason game, that's not allowed. So in a scrimmage, if the Gamecocks could scrimmage North Carolina or something, you could have a red jersey on Doty or red cleats on him to not step on his feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there could obviously be some guardrails in place or something like that. Or you just don't even have to schedule one. You might, some teams, you want to play one. If you don't, that's fine. College baseball, I like how they do it. They schedule some in the fall, and then in the spring, you just go out there and play. There is no decision on the starting quarterback right now, according to Shane Beamer. He says that towards the end of the week, they hope to have a better idea of what's going on. But let me add a little context to this right now. Luke Doty is out of the cast, and he is in a walking boot. So I'm not necessarily, don't take this to be the gospel at all necessarily, but this is purely speculation based on recent conversations that I've had, Darren. I was kind of waiting to see what Shane would say on this. If Luke Doty is healing up pretty good and they feel like, he actually might be able to go, he'll be the starting quarterback. I'm personally really leaning towards that's not going to be the case, but I don't think that they want to get out there and announce somebody as a starting quarterback and then all of a sudden, well, now wait a second, Doty can play, and then we're going to plug him in. So they don't have to announce a quarterback. Let's all keep that in mind. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to announce anything until 30 minutes prior to kickoff when they announce it in the ballpark if they want to. So maybe we'll get something towards the end of the week, but that's probably going to be contingent on what Luke looks like. If not, based on, again, my sources, just mine here, Zeb Nolan seems to maybe be that guy potentially, but at the end of the day, no decision. So it could be one of any of those dudes here in the next week or so.
And we've discussed this. You don't want to rush Luke Doty out there. If he's so far ahead of the rest of the quarterback room, there's no sense of putting a 90% Luke Doty out against Eastern Illinois if Jamie Bradford can turn around and hand the ball off and hopefully, ideally, win the game. So while he could be getting closer, these are good signs that he's healing, right? We've talked about how guys heal differently. Wes Mitchell talks about that a lot. Certain guys heal differently, faster or slower than others. That's something that's just a fact of life. The fact that he's moving this way, that's a good sign. But if he's not 100%, I wouldn't put him out there. There's just no reason to put him out there against Eastern Illinois. If you're risking further injury, if he's not 100%, there's no reason.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I do think Luke Doty is probably a guy that that you'll want to have in that ECU game if you can get him back. I mean, a week ago, Darren, again, and all of this kind of changes a lot, but a week ago, some intel had been passed along to myself that I passed along in our program here that you might want to go ahead and just circle that Georgia game, as this is pretty likely that Luke Doty is going to be back. Less likely for Eastern Illinois, likely for ECU, very likely for Georgia, that type of situation, but all contingent on how he heals and how things kind of unfold and things like that. So, if you could get him ready to go to where he's able to get in there on the road at East Carolina, I think that would probably make people feel pretty comfortable. And I'm talking about the people inside the football program, not the fans. Probably make the fans feel comfortable too. But, another little nugget on this, which I find is interesting, and this is something that was just, spoken about just a few minutes ago as it pertains to Zeb Nolan. Shane Beamer said that Marcus Satterfield approached him and said that he might be the smartest quarterback I've actually ever been around. Now, that doesn't mean he's the most capable quarterback. It doesn't mean he's the best quarterback. There's a lot that goes into these terms. Capable, best, smartest. You can term a lot. You got to really listen when coaches say things like this. I know a lot of guys who have been incredibly smart in different sports, and they just weren't overly capable. I know a lot of guys who are very capable, and they weren't very smart. So, it kind of all intertwines itself. What does that mean? I think what that kind of means is he's probably the path of least resistance in the first game or two if we got to play somebody besides Luke Doty, or if Luke Doty's in there and he's got to come out for some off-the-wall reason. This is probably the guy that is going to be least likely to do something pretty stupid. He has an idea of what's going on out there. He's able to be in charge of it, and he can probably move us down the field without us having to worry about whether something ridiculous is about to happen. Not that it can't, but as opposed to what surrounds him. And that is not at all taking a shot at the ability of Colton Gauthier or the ability of Jason Brown or how much they know and understand of the offense. Everybody kind of comes around in their own time frame, if you want to say it something like that. So I think what it means is they feel comfortable with him out there because he understands what's going on, and they can manage it from there.
Another injury update. Kevin Harris getting closer and closer. Optimistic for week one. Cam Smith a chance to play in week one.
Yeah. Both of those guys are, I got a feeling this is going to be late next week before we truly know about this. It has that drag on type feel. You know what I mean? Don't know the exact extent of the injuries, but Darren, I think we can all probably use our brains.
Same logic, right? It's the same logic as Doty. If you're not 100% there, then why do it against Eastern Illinois? The problem is from an outsider, the problem here is it was easy to say new staff, relatively new quarterback. I mean, it's fair to say he's still a new quarterback. There wasn't a ton of experience last year. So you've got all this new, and how are these pieces going to fit together in these questions? And the theory was, well, great. You get Eastern Illinois to kind of get things working on that. Then you get ECU, which is a step up. Then you get into the SEC. And that's happening now, but it's happening probably without guys who you want to go through that process. And then they're just starting like it was week one against a Power 5 team. You've got ECU or Georgia, depending on when you're back. So that adds another challenging dilemma in there to Beamer and the team.
Look, priority one is win the game. Obviously, win the game. Just win the game and don't set these guys back any further, because the meat starts. I mean, everybody circled Georgia, and I'm guilty of that as well. But I think it's when week two rolls around, and we're talking about this ECU South Carolina game on this show, and you start hearing it mentioned in other places, I think some people out there are going to be a little bit surprised to find out more what people tell them about ECU. Is it a team that's better than the Gamecocks? No, it's not. But are they capable of winning? I believe they are.
Absolutely. I've been saying that from day one.
You have been.
This game.
You're right. I mean, so I think some people will be a little bit surprised to find out what they're going to find out, especially when that week comes and we start really focusing on it a little bit more. But priority one is just win the game. Worry about the next game that you got and win the damn game. That's what it comes down to. But to your point, the double-edged sword in that is what was exciting starting the preseason with the assumption that Luke Doty and Kevin Harris and all these guys are going to be ready to go was, okay, especially Luke Doty and Cam Smith, areas of concern on this program. Okay, they're going to have 4 quarters to kind of get the feels out there. You know what I mean? Get their feet underneath them a little bit, gain some confidence. The team will gain some confidence, work out the kinks, make a stupid read or a dumb play. You did it against Eastern Illinois. You should be able to overcome it and still win the game. You should be just fine. But if you're getting your feet wet on the road at ECU or on the road in Athens, Georgia, that mistake might cost you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the double-edged sword in all this, kind of like you were saying.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, those little mistakes, you can afford so many of them. You can afford a lot less when you're playing a top 5 team.
Yeah, I think so. Beamer, seems optimistic about these guys, but we'll see what happens. Juju McDowell continues to make a name for himself as well. Kind of pass that part along. Coach Beamer asked, "How much will he play?" And he said, "A lot." So it looks like Juju McDowell is probably he might nail down that punt or kick return role for South Carolina and might be toting the rock a little bit as well.
The Washington football team has a short running back who's making a huge name for himself as well. It looks like he'll make the team. You may remember the name. It was Jared Patterson, who went for like 1,000 yards for Buffalo in a game last year.
Yeah.
He's 5'7". I think he's 5'8" listed. He looks 5'2". But he's officially 5'8", but he's a little dude. It's very similar to what he brings Washington as to what Juju can bring the Gamecocks.
That's another, option. It's another piece. I mean, that's what you're hoping and searching for here. I mean, Kevin Harris, obviously a proven tailback in this league. But you always want to find more. And, EJ Jenkins appears to pretty much be ready to go. Mm-hmm. And now Juju McDowell has emerged as well as a threat for South Carolina from a skill position standpoint. So we're going to keep you updated on the news and notes from Shane Beamer in Columbia. But we are going to hit a timeout. When we return, we'll be joined by Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. And Cory, of course, will give his thoughts on the Atlanta Braves, talk about Miguel Cabrera's place in big league history now that he's over 500 home runs. And we'll take a drive around Major League Baseball as well to kind of wrap up the afternoon. So more with Cory, more on the Gamecocks right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike 2! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come to it today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per 1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
You were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Final segment, Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. August the 24th, almost into September. The stretch run of baseball is right around the corner. Cory McCartney joins us in hot Atlanta. Well, I know it's hot over there. I know the Braves lost last night, but they've been basically the hottest team in baseball. So a lot to get to. Hey, Cory.
Hey, what's going on?
You just couldn't get them one more win before we got you on the air, huh?
Well, you had the two owners of the first 9 or more game streak since 1901 had to end for one of them.
It did. That's a heck of a stat. That's why we have you around here. I will, to make some feel better, at least in this state, they were beaten by former Gamecock left-hander Jordan Montgomery. So, for whatever that's worth.
And the Phillies didn't win. So if you want to feel better about it, you only lost half a game. You didn't lose a full game.
It's true. Yeah. So, if you want to feel better about the Braves losing, just know that a Gamecock beat them. And there's Jordan Montgomery. It's okay. But honestly, Cory, just from where we were even last week to where we are now, they're 4.5 up. Everything essentially is clicking. It wasn't last night, but we knew they were going to lose at some point. They're going to get another crack at that thing tonight. This is that stretch run. Before we get there, 9-0 on the road, Cory, 9-0, regardless of who they play. That's remarkable. You go on a 9-game road trip, you win every game. Everything's just working.
Yeah, I mean, look, you obviously the teams that they beat up on that road trip, no one's scared of those clubs right now. Obviously, the Orioles are all-time kind of bad, the team that they just played before the series against the Yankees. And, the one thing that this team has not done to this point is consistently beat those teams you're supposed to beat. So I think, obviously, that's done. They got that part of it wrapped, and they come home and 9-game, winning streak comes to an end against the Yankees. I thought, Dansby Swanson last night in his post-game, interview was the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling deal, limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun when he said, in order to be the best, you got to beat the best. And, the Braves were not able to do that last night. If he's going to channel Ric Flair, I'm putting it over the top. So, this is obviously a big matchup for them. You hate to put a lot on a 2-game series, but obviously this is a 2-game series within a stretch, where things are going to get a lot more elevated for this team. Yeah. And, for them not to be able to, to come through with a win in the first game. I mean, it is what it is. Huascar, pitched really well, but you've got the Giants next, then you've got the Dodgers. Things are going to only get tougher for this team. And so I don't want to say last night was a tone setter for this series or, this run that they're going to go on, but Huascar, pitched really well, and they just didn't generate enough offense.
And in addition to that, I mean, they've got the Rockies for 4 on the road. I know that the Rockies aren't the Giants or the Dodgers or the Padres in that division, but it's still hard to go out there and win at Coors Field, and it's part of a road trip. So including that, this 12-game stretch that they're in right here, coming off of what they've just come off of, I mean, at some point in time, they're going to cool off. Everybody does. What is important about this stretch from a record standpoint? I mean, is 500, is that something that's going to keep them kind of where they are?
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond that, right? I mean, so let's say you get into the postseason, you're obviously going to have a matchup against the Central, while the West is going to get both those wild card spots more than likely, and likely the top seed in the NL postseason bracket. So you're going to end up playing the Brewers, and you're going to end up getting the winner coming out of this West gauntlet. And is that going to be the Giants? Is that going to be the Dodgers? They're going to face those two teams coming up. I think what's important about this stretch is not only maintaining a lead in the East, it's what do you have confidence-wise coming out of playing both the Giants and then a trip to the Dodgers for 3 games. Obviously they're going to have to finish off that game against the Padres on this run as well. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this, because I think these games matter in terms of confidence, because they can get in, they can maybe beat the Brewers, but then what?
Yeah, I was just glancing off here to my right to see who the arms are that they're going to face in this stretch over the next couple of weeks. And of course, when you're in LA, you've got Ferris Bueller, his brother Walker, Scherzer's out there. You're going to see Gausman with the Giants coming up here at the end of the week. By the way, just kind of curious, how did this Wednesday, Thursday situation happen to where the Braves get 2 days off before they have San Francisco at home?
Yeah, it's pretty weird, right? I mean, you would almost want that to be, wrapped around the end of that Giants series, so then you can get a day off before you have to fly out west to go see the Dodgers. But, Chip Carey's told me many times that MLB doesn't think too hard when they put these schedules together. So I think you're seeing that at play.
Yeah, that was really strange. You almost wonder though what that does for the Braves. I mean, not to get too in the weeds on it here, but they're going to play tonight, and then they're home. They get to enjoy a couple of. I mean, I know they'll be at the park working out and stuff, but they're home with their families. But if they win tonight, sometimes you don't like to have days off when you're as hot as the Braves have been. So you just kind of wonder what they'll look like coming out of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to have Fried, Smiley, and Tukey. Toussaint are expected to, pitch those games. Although that Sunday start could end up going to Ian Anderson. He's going to start tonight in Gwinnett, and that's expected to be his last rehab start. And if things go well, he's going to be penciled into that rotation this weekend. So they could be. We could get a glimpse for the first time at what is close to full strength as these Braves are going to be this season. It could come as soon as this weekend.
Entering the stretch run of September, which would just be magnificent. What about the bullpen? They've had a couple of close calls in this stretch. They've now only lost, I think, 4 times in the month of August, but had a couple of close calls. They almost blew like a 9-run lead or something in the 9th inning last week. Are they pretty set on where they are?
I think those roles? So that's a really good question, because, obviously you got Ian Anderson, as I mentioned, coming back this weekend. So what do? Do you go to a 6-man rotation with the fact, that these guys didn't pitch a lot last year? You're trying to kind of maybe protect arms and keep everybody fresh going into the postseason. That's one way to approach it. Or when they get Ian Anderson back, does either Drew Smiley or Tukey Toussaint slide into that long relief role that, Josh Tomlin, frankly, one of the nicer guys in that clubhouse, but has just not been getting the job done. Do you slide them into that role? And then the bullpen overall becomes a little bit stronger when you've got that swing guy, who you have a little bit more confidence in. So I think that to them right now is the biggest question. Do you need Tomlin around? And if you do, what does it do to that rotation? If you don't, does that create an opportunity for somebody else to be that guy that, is frankly been one of the sore spots for this bullpen?
Where's Will Smith from a mental standpoint? He's up and down, up and down. Where is he? How confident is he?
I think that's just his game, right? I think, we've gotten so far away from those relievers that, are the guy that when he walks through the bullpen door, the other team just deflates. And now you've got guys like him that, are a big part of their game is their breaking ball. He's not a guy who's hitting triple digits as that reliever. So you're going to have the ups and you're going to have the downs with a guy who relies so much on a slider and throws that, hanging curve at times. So I think this is just the way he operates. It's not always going to be, minimum batters faced when Will Smith's on the mound late in the game. And that's an unfortunate situation when you think about, the bullpen and how do you maintain this going into the postseason? Because look, if I'm obviously not sitting in the managerial seat, but if I've got Richard Rodriguez, who I got from the Pirates, who has closing experience, if I have Tyler Matzik, who's been lights out for a month and a half, I have AJ Minter, I've got Luke Jackson, who has closing experience, Chris Martin, who has closing experience. I'm not giving this to one guy. And to me, I think there's the opportunity to spread the wealth, but they seem to be resigned to the fact that Will Smith is the primary closer for this team.
Cory McCartney, 143 on this Tuesday afternoon. All right, I'm going to ask the slap me question of the week, because somebody out there is going to say, dude, you just jinxed it. Do you have by chance in your notes? I know you have so many notes on the Braves. That's why we have you on. Do you know what the best record in the history of the organization is in the month of August?
I do not know that offhand. Are you going to tell me what the best record is?
I don't know.
Oh no! I see. I gotta prepare me a little bit. I mean, you gotta give me maybe 5 minutes. I could have tracked that down for you.
Yeah, that's what they all say. No, I didn't even think to ask that question until just now. That's why it's the slap me question of the week. I mean, they've only lost 4 games in the entire month. Pretty good if you ask me. I don't know. Maybe you can tweet that out later. We know what did the Orioles did they play last night?
I'm not sure.
I'm going
to guess no, because I didn't see that it was either snapped or extended.
No, they did. That's right. They had the night off. They played tonight. They got the Angels. Yeah, we covered this yesterday. We said they had the night off. They might be setting a record. That's a horrible record to set. Congratulations to Baltimore. All right, so let's talk about Miguel Cabrera, Corey. He's the 28th member of the 500 home run club. It's just a remarkable achievement for Miguel Cabrera. He's a career 311 hitter. He has, by the way, 2,955 hits, Corey. He could get to 3,000 hits this year and 500 home runs in the same season. It would just be unbelievable. Summarize this guy's career and what he's accomplished. He's over 300, 500 home runs. You just don't see that ever.
No, I mean, we talked a lot about against Albert Pujols. It feels like the last year and the milestones that he's hit. But I think when you're talking about all-time right-handed hitters, I'm putting the totality of what Miguel Cabrera is ahead of Albert Pujols. I think when you look at what this guy's done and the places he's done it, just the consistency, and look at the age that he's. We're talking about him getting to 3,000, and we're getting to 500 home runs now. I mean, there's the version of Albert Pujols we're seeing is not the Cardinals Albert Pujols, and I'm not saying that Miguel Cabrera is still the Triple Crown Miguel Cabrera. I mean, at this point, I think a lot of people look at him as the guy that is, 38 years old and is still writing out a contract that's going to pay him 30 million until he's 42 years old. That's where he's still at in a lot of people's eyes. He's under contract through 2025 for the Tigers, but this is a guy who is in my mind, one of the top 5 right-handed hitters of all time. And it's unfortunate that this contract has put him in a position where I don't know that he can, that anyone's going to pick that up. And the Tigers, certainly with their tear down, they're not going to want to, take on too much of that money. It's just a weird spot for him to be in, playing out the string, if we will, with this contract. But I think that deal kind of overshadows a guy who is one of the all-timers in terms of the right side of the plate.
Out of curiosity, who are the other 4 in that top 5 of yours?
Well, I mean, you got to have Ty Cobb up there, right? Ted Williams, Stan Musial.
I'm grilling you today, man. Sorry.
Yeah. Who would be my 4th? I'll put Al Kaline as number 4.
Al Kaline, he was a Tiger.
Yep.
So you got 2 Tigers.
I grew up on Al Kaline. I grew up. My grandfather and my dad were massive Detroit Tigers fans. There's actually a couple balls behind me signed by Al Kaline, Sparky Anderson, Cecil Fielder. So that stuff was kind of ingrained in me from a young age. But yeah, I think those guys are on that list.
Cecil Fielder bought the house behind the house my mom grew up in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Isn't that cool?
Nice.
Yeah.
I was
moved in one day.
I was in Tiger Stadium when he hit one out of the ballpark. So he hit one outside the stadium. So
what do you think StatCast would have that on today? Or whatever the thing is.
I think the launch angle would be like 100, right? It would just like straight up.
How far do you think that thing went? 600 feet? 550 feet?
It had to go 500 something easy to clear the facade and right. I mean, it was a short right field porch, but to hit it over the top of the lights and I mean, it was ridiculous.
Like the natural moment. We don't have many of those stadiums left. Like there's some like San Francisco, Pittsburgh. Like you can hit it out, but not with the dramatic scene of like clearing the roof in right field or something. Like we don't have those.
No.
And on the I mean, not to get off topic here, but to talk about Miguel Cabrera a little bit. Just kidding. Sometimes we wander off into Never Neverland, and I'm ringleader on that. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any other way to slice that. But what I think is amazing in all of this, as it pertains to his career, he has not done this under the shadow of any steroid stuff. None that's been relevant. I mean, amongst all of his peers.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously had the DUIs and the stuff from his past.
Who cares about
those ends? But I think you look at this guy. I think there was a time where we saw a pretty plump version of Miguel Cabrera. I don't think anybody was going to. No one was going to be accusing him of that stuff. But think about the way he jumped back and forth defensively too. I mean, obviously he was came up as a third baseman. They threw him at first, went back to third. Now he's back at first. There's versatility there that I think's underrated. I just don't think he gets credit, at this point in his career, and I think it's that contract is a big reason for that.
That's a good point. I mean, DUIs don't keep you out of the Hall of Fame, though. I mean, Babe Ruth drank in the dugout, so he could have got DUIs while he was running around the bases.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. 2-time AL MVP, Triple Crown, 11-time All-Star. Drive us around the rest of the big leagues. What's caught your attention over the last week or so?
Well, I'm surprised you guys didn't ask me about this, Cabrera thing about who's going to be next. Who else is going to get to 500 home runs? I think that's a really interesting, side story in this thing.
Is
Juan
there
Soto
next? Yeah. Okay. Is it Soto? Is it Tatis? Who is it?
I think Stanton's next, right? I mean, I think Giancarlo Stanton has to be the next guy that you think is going to be. Well, he's 31 years old. He's got 332 home runs, and he's averaging 14.2 per every 14.2 at bats. He's hitting a home run. So that puts him well. That's a 39 home run pace for a season. I think he's got a chance. So and then obviously you're going to look at the young guys, but yeah, I think Stanton's for real.
Clearly, it was going to be Kyle Schwarber, but now he might not hit another one ever.
Yeah, that fell off the map pretty quick.
Oh, and Trout too. I mean, Stanton and Trout. I mean, those are the two that I think you have to look at that next class, and then you take it down to those younger guys.
Mm-hmm. Harper could be behind that class, right?
He could. I think he's got a legitimate chance. I mean, I think with Harper, like he's sitting on 255 at 28 years old. So yeah. I mean, he's got a potential too, but Nelson Cruz, unfortunately, is not going to get there.
No, he's 41. Yeah, he's not going to get there. And then I think we had this conversation before the season started, right? How many active players were in the top 100 all time in home runs, and it was just 3. Pujols, obviously, the leader at 677. Yeah, and then you go all the way down to Robinson Cano, and he ain't gonna get there. He's at 334, nope. and then Stanton at 109. Yeah, I don't think Justin Upton's gonna get there either.
No.
Sorry about that, Justin, but yeah, he's not gonna get there. Yeah, so it's gonna be a while. You're talking about, I don't know if Trout at 310 or if Stanton at 330, if they're hitting, say 40 a year for the next 3 or 4 years, we'll start to have this conversation again, but we're probably not going to have this conversation for the next couple of seasons, at least 2 or 3 seasons, 4 seasons, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe Nelson Cruz sticks around for a couple more years, but I don't think 57 home runs is going to be in the books for him.
No, I don't think so. And by the way, these records only pertain to the big leagues. Like if you go over to Japan and hit 40 home runs, that doesn't matter, right?
No.
Okay. That's like Ichiro. It was a big deal when he got his 3,000th professional hit. And then I don't know, he's got 4,005, whatever he's got.
He should have more than Rose, yeah.
That's true. What do you think about this story that's surrounding the Angels? This is the Tyler Skaggs death situation. This is pretty ugly stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you have, a team, being involved in the distribution of a legal substance that ends up killing a player or alleged to. I mean, it's this, you're talking about obviously, people's careers, a massive lawsuit that could civil suit that could come out of this whole thing. I mean, it's just a very ugly situation for this franchise. And obviously they've had a lot of turnover in their front office, and those people that were involved during that time period, not necessarily tied to this anymore, with Perry Maniasin going over there as the general manager now. But they've been in a weird spot for a while, right? I mean, when you go back to the guy who was making the sticky substance for all those pitchers that were coming through, I mean, that was a guy with the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there was a lot of stuff going on, within that organization that were, some really bad stuff. And obviously this is just the tip of the mountain here. I mean, this could be extremely ugly for the Angels.
Who could be implicated in this? Could they go all the way to the top, or do we know?
I mean, I think you're obviously, you're talking about people within the training staff more so than you're talking about, ownership. But
Okay.
I guess you're just going to have to figure out how far they can push this thing to see who knew what and who was maybe had deniability in this whole thing. So there's going to be a lot of things that come out of this for sure. It's going to be one lengthy investigation.
I mean, when I read yesterday that the fentanyl that killed Skaggs was delivered to the stadium the morning of the incident. I mean, that's one of those things that, take a deep breath. And
that was in Texas, right? Because he died in Texas, didn't he?
I don't remember. It was delivered to the stadium that day, or maybe it was the day prior, but I think it said that day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought they were I thought he was in a hotel room in Texas. I'm pretty sure he was, but it was delivered to the stadium. I just don't know if it was delivered to Angel Stadium and they flew with it, or if it was delivered in Texas somehow. I don't know.
Either way, that's bad. That's eye-opening. Oh my God, bad.
Do either one of you think that this is going to be somehow a moving part in a bigger investigation into baseball itself? How many players are involved in stuff like this?
I mean, I would have a hard time believing that this is the only clubhouse in which this has ever happened, right? I mean, I think they've got it. I mean, I think baseball is going to have to look into this, but certainly when you think about, all the restrictions and whatnot with COVID testing and, how much you're testing for other substances, in terms of marijuana and other things. I mean, how much is being stunted by the current setup where we're having to test players, for amid a pandemic? How much can I wonder how much this current climate, what I'm saying is going to inhibit that until we can get out of it.
I have no idea. I got bad news for people. There are drugs in baseball, unfortunately. All pro sports have their guys who do bad things. Some of them are our heroes, as much as we hate to say that, but it's true. Corey, on that note, we'll let you run, my friend. Next time we talk, no losses. Maybe you could tweet that out. What's the best record ever for a Braves team in the month of August?
Yep, I'll probably have it for you in the next 10 minutes.
We'll be all over it. All
right, I'll tag you.
Okay. All right. That's perfect. All right. Yeah. Darren's
Thanks,
on.
guys.
Thanks, Later, man. There you go. Cory McCartney in at Atlanta, Georgia. All right. Real quick, last couple of minutes before we get out of here on this Tuesday afternoon. Darren's getting a little cloudy out there.
Yeah, I think it may have rained. I think it rained over here at some point during the show.
Oh, God, please don't. Please don't. Not a whole lot extra to pass along to you from Shane Beamer up in Columbia. Pretty much anything that was worthy, we've already kind of dished it out on the program. We're going to be able to fuss and discuss all of it tomorrow, though, with J.C. Sherbert. He's going to join us at 12:30. But if you missed the key points are there is no quarterback yet. Hopefully by the end of the week, they've got somebody set and ready to go. Eastern Illinois, of course, does come to town on Saturday, September the 4th. They are done with preseason camp, and they are starting to integrate themselves into game prep, which is what they'll be doing this week, kind of to mirror what it's going to look like next week. And then the updates on Kevin Harris and Cam Smith, they're optimistic. Both of them will be able to go in week 1 against the Panthers. So we'll see kind of what happens there. Eastern Illinois does play this weekend, by the way.
Yep.
So for those that are interested in watching them for some reason, go for it. I don't even know who they play, but they do.
Indiana. They got Indiana State.
The Sycamores.
Got the Sycamores. Yes, this weekend.
All right.
You can watch it. It's ESPN Plus. You can get it. Yep.
Don't care to. I'll see them live and in person in Williams-Brice Stadium next week. It is National Maryland Day.
Yeah, Maryland.
There you go.
Shout out Maryland, hometown.
That's right.
State, town, whatever.
Congratulations to you. I'm sure you'll celebrate with that weird-looking checkered flag.
It's a really cool flag.
It is a cool flag. It looks really, actually, I like it on the Maryland helmets, too. I think
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
It's National Peach Pie Day.
No.
I love peach pie. And we all love this. It's National Waffle Day.
All right. I can get behind that.
Find a Waffle House near you and indulge yourself into an all-star special.
Oh, there's a Waffle House near me.
Yeah.
My
pretty
daughter
near
has to go quite often.
About 30 seconds up the road. All right. Thanks to Corey and Mike and Darren and all of you. We hope you have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. JC Sherbert tomorrow. Keith Alsep tomorrow. Busy day around here. A lot of Gamecock football to get to. We're getting closer to the games. We're starting to talk about the games. This is going to be fun. We'll talk about games for the next 8 days. It's going to be awesome. Until then, though, we'll see you later and see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.